Congratulations. You found the Twin Cities Hit Show.
Very well. Where do I begin?
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
All right, people, here we are. This is the date. In 1 hour.
Reach for this one.
And now, a real hit show.
We sink, we swim, we rise, we fall, we meet our fate together.
Live from the Twin Cities.
And now I've got a message for those people out there who've abandoned you and written you off. You are not inferior, but you can turn that around and make liars out of those bastards in exactly 1 hour.
It's the Twin Cities Hit Show.
When you find your minds wandering, I want you to knuckle back down and concentrate. Concentrate. Remember what's at stake.
Let's get this hit show started.
Rainy days and Mondays, they always get me down.
Oh, for God's sake. Don't even get me started.
Why?
Oh, hailstorm at like 2 in the morning.
Really?
The random sun getting up to pee in the middle of the night at 4 and leaving all the lights on. And then this commute? Oh, my God.
Your son's not. You don't have a random son. It's your son.
Oh,
you know
it's
that,
random.
Right? It doesn't count as random.
He's random.
He didn't just wander in. So.
He's random.
Miss Shannon, he may have random sons. He may be...
A happy
story.
Belated Father's Day to both of you.
Thank
So
you.
I hope you guys had good Sundays.
I only have the son, so I can claim Father's Day.
Why? What? You've got a daughter.
Oh yeah.
Here's what Jim Gaffigan thinks about Father's Day.
It feels like a holiday that's kind of an afterthought. Like, Mother's Day, all right, I guess we should do something for that guy that on his one day off goes golfing. Maybe we'll have a barbecue for him. It's just... Yeah, it's weird. Even the gifts, right? I mean, a tie. We give dads ties. What is this, 1950?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a silk noose, right?
I didn't look at it that way. Yeah. I didn't think of it that way.
What did you get, Chuck?
Nothing.
Nice.
They didn't make you anything?
Actually, well, here's the thing.
Is Shannon on mic? Is that just my headset?
Yeah, it just might... I don't know. My kids.
I hear me a bit. So.
I got no actual gift, but my kids woke me up with the coolest card and breakfast in bed. My 11-year-old and 9-year-old almost made breakfast for me with great presentation, cool food.
See, I think that's really fun, though.
day.
I mean, there's not like they can. They don't have their own disposable income yet. They're not supposed to buy you anything.
Yeah, they do.
Right.
I give them an allowance.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's not that much. They're like, here, go get me something awesome.
These are the things I'll remember forever.
My 15-year-old daughter, who I thought hated me, wrote a card by hand, which they've been doing since they were toddlers, that don't tell her, but brought tears.
Aw, yeah. See, that's lovely.
You just told her. She listens every day.
When she might.
Yeah. Congratulations to both of you.
Rusty, your soft side. So cute.
Shut up, Chuck. I'll punch you in the throat. All right, so things to update. We're going to get to the chatter about Charleston in a moment.
Okay.
New word about the prisoners who are fleeing in New York.
Yes.
Did you hear that? There's day 16, and they'd been searching like hundreds of miles away, following news tips and such.
Well, they also received a couple of tips that maybe they're train hopping now. So there's how they actually maybe got 300 or 400 miles away, is that some people have seen people fitting those descriptions near different train stations.
Doing the hobo escape.
Exactly. So they're going, well, maybe that's what happened.
But they found DNA in a cabin just like 20 miles away. Here, listen to CBS.
Police spent the weekend searching hundreds of miles from here along the Pennsylvania border. But CBS News has confirmed that investigators got what could be an important lead much closer to home, here, just about 25 miles from the prison. State police searched cars at roadblocks and set up a command post in the rural area of Owl's Head as the search for fugitives Richard Matt and David Sweat entered its 16th day.
Sweat.
Sources tell CBS News that DNA from the escapees was found in a cabin that had been...
I wonder if they found Sweat's DNA.
Oh, gross. Oh, I assume that DNA is always a euphemism. Okay, never mind. That's probably okay.
They didn't say what type.
Wolf Pond in the Saranac Lake region of New York, 25 miles from the prison. CBS News has also confirmed that a second prison employee, identified as Gene Palmer, has been suspended and was questioned by officials as part of the investigation into the escape. Police vehicles were seen parked outside his home on Saturday.
We will search under every rock, behind every tree and structure until we are confident that that area is secure.
Do they really think they're hiding under rocks? That seems like a waste of time to search under every rock.
But
well,
they could find more DNA.
Certain
Maybe
rocks,
they picked up a rock and they left a little DNA there, and it'll be like a little trail of rock-type breadcrumbs or something.
Sure.
So,
did you see the details on David Sweat and how he ended up in prison?
Oh, do we want to know?
Yeah,
is he
but
the one
over it again.
Is he the one who dismembered his guy?
He's the guy who killed the cop.
Yeah.
But they didn't just kill the cop. There were three guys in a park. The cop pulls in. The cop is a quarter mile from his house, going to his break to have dinner. Well, 3 a.m. dinner. He sees these three guys. He doesn't realize what they're up to. They were stripping cars and stealing cars all around town. The Sweat guy was just a long-time bad dude. And they get in a shootout with him. They knock him down. Sweat runs him over with the car, like drags him basically to death. But he was still going, so they walk up to him and shoot him a bunch of times to finish him off. And it was just brutal.
Yikes.
Yeah, he's a bad dude. He needs to go.
So they were dealing in stolen vehicles, and it just escalated to shootout and death.
Yeah.
well, it sounds like they're both terrible individuals. There's a reason why they're doing that.
Yep.
But that's also, I think, what's so sad and crazy about the people who assisted them in the breakout. So people who were
there's no confusion there.
Exactly. So people who were entrusted to work at this prison and to help keep the general populace safe because these terrible people were put there, and then they still have that breach of trust and helped all these people escape. So
I was.
You want to hang up my cabin this weekend? I'll help you break out.
I was discussing Stockholm Syndrome with my father this weekend. In
Right.
a different context. We were talking in the marital context.
Do you feel you had some Stockholm Syndrome with your dad?
No, from my marriage. But no, we were talking about him and his marriage, and we were just kind of joking about Stockholm Syndrome. I was amazed to find out my dad didn't know what it was.
Explain Stockholm Syndrome.
And that's what I'm getting to. It's my
Gotcha.
setup.
All
Here's
right.
my punch. So Stockholm Syndrome is you begin to empathize with your captors. And this is actually a study out of Stockholm, Sweden, where there was a big hostage-taking incident. And the hostages began to empathize with the hostage takers. And when law enforcement stormed the place, like, whoa, don't shoot him. They're not all bad. He's a good guy. And that's what happens. The problem is when you work in a prison, you're supposed to be above falling for that crap.
Well, I don't think anybody's above falling for anything that ends up being a psychological problem, and especially when it's just their job. But this is still the opposite, where you were in a position of, we'll say, authority because they were guards or they were teachers, and that were working with these people. So it's actually the opposite side of why they think that maybe they have been rehabilitated or on best behavior and things like that, versus someone putting you in a position where you're being subjugated and then still decide that you're going to be on the side of your captors.
Yeah. Well, and we talked last week about Charles Manson actually breaking up with a chick because she was using him. But I mean, that's it. It's amazing that these people aren't more mature and
speaking of
forward thinking.
Exactly.
Speaking of psychological issues, now they've went on to the Charleston Massacre shooter's website and his social media. It's filled with pictures of racism and hatred and white supremacist bullshit, even down to his last posting, evidently, which was hours before he went into the church, saying somebody's got to do something, basically, and I'm in a hurry. So,
Did you see what the roommate said, too?
No.
They interviewed the roommate. I mean, he's been talking about this for months. I knew this was coming.
Well, roommate should be charged with something as well, then.
Yeah, stupidity.
Chuck, you sent me the link to Jon Stewart. This happened last Thursday, where he basically began the segment, which he's done like once before, with no jokes and totally serious. But here's just a couple of moments from Jon Stewart, by the way, from last Thursday.
Because of what happened in South Carolina. And maybe if I wasn't nearing the end of the run, or this wasn't such a common occurrence, maybe I could have pulled out of the spiral, but I didn't. And so I honestly have nothing. Other than just sadness, once again, that we have to peer into the abyss of the depraved violence that we do to each other and the nexus of a just gaping racial wound that will not heal, yet we pretend doesn't exist. By acknowledging it, by staring into that, and seeing it for what it is, we still won't do jack. That's the part that I cannot, for the life of me, wrap my head around. And you know it. You know that it's going to go down the same path. This is a terrible tragedy. They're already using the nuanced language of lack of effort for this. This is a terrorist attack. This is a violent attack on the Emmanuel Church in South Carolina, which is a symbol for the black community. It has stood in that part of Charleston for 100 and some years and has been attacked viciously many times, as many black churches have. And to pretend that, I heard someone on the news say, well, tragedy has visited this church. This wasn't a tornado. This was a racist. This was a guy with a Rhodesia badge on his sweater. And, you know, so the idea that we're, you know, I hate to even use this pun, but this one is black and white.
And yet, Larry Whitmore on the later show, the show after Jon Stewart, he pointed out, and I thought, quite obviously, what Fox News agenda is, because they're not willing to go there, believe it or not. Here's a moment from Larry Whitmore's show.
It couldn't be clearer when it comes out of the killer's mouth, right? Yeah. But even with all of that evidence, and on a day like today, Fox News just makes my head explode.
Well, last night's deadly attack taking place at a historic church in South Carolina. The gunman's horrifying attack on faith.
The question is, was it a crime out of race or religion?
They could be calling it a hate crime because it happened in a religious institution.
So if we're not safe in our own churches, then where are we safe? And although it's being investigated as a hate crime, there's still some pieces we have to put together.
Some look at it as, well, it's because it was a white guy, apparently, and a black church. But you made a great point just a moment ago about the hostility toward Christians. And it was a church.
Okay. All right. I know you guys don't want to admit that racial stuff isn't going on. But how can there be any doubt when it came out of the gunman's mouth? Let me remind you what he said.
I want to shoot black people.
He told his victims, I want to shoot black people. I think when he says black people, he means black people and not Christians. I'm just saying. And remember this part.
He said, you rape our women and you taking over our country. And you have to go.
He is being very clear. Nobody thinks Christians are going around raping everybody and taking over the country. All right? That's not a thing, unless you're a Duggar. All right? Then it's a thing. Okay, and then Fox News sends out a black preacher like his black is going to confuse me. Right? Black don't distract, by the way, right? It don't. Black don't distract, man. But nice try anyway, Fox.
Yeah, I'm deeply concerned that this gunman chose to go into a church because there does seem to be a rising hostility against Christians across this country because of our biblical views.
No. It is not rising hostility against Christians. It's rising, forceful, and pervasive hostility against black people who were meeting in a church.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, don't.
Isn't it funny that Fox tries to grab, and then there, even what's-his-face, Texas, running for president again,
Rick Perry
called it an accident.
He's just dumb.
Whenever these gun accidents happen.
Well, I mean, and his people immediately came back and said, he meant incident. He just had a slip of the tongue. It's like, you talk like a drunk person all the time, Rick Perry. So, we know he's going to have gaffes. So that was the least of my concerns. I was not surprised that he said something dumb.
The anchors of Fox News presenting themselves as some sort of authority, saying, well, maybe this is an attack on Christianity.
They picked a spin. I mean, I'm more upset about them than Rick Perry because they picked a spin and decided to run with it. When Rick Perry opens his mouth, and random words do occasionally just fall out, and who knows. So if he can't even remember his own speeches, I'm not expecting him to just know how words work. But yes, I mean, the Fox News people, and when you, again, if the gunman is saying that he was intentionally trying to start a race war, where is the question at this point? So, but
it's pathetic.
That's
Fox
what
News. You are pathetic.
I still kind of use it as an example of you go back to saying, I think that certain people are reasonable. It's like, no, there are lots of people who have an agenda. They're not trying to be reasonable. And unfortunately, we also live in a society where people will pay attention to the initial soundbite and they don't fact check any farther than that. And they don't listen to any retractions. They're going to hear the first one. They're going to glom onto that, and that's how people like this gunman start in the first place. He got all of the rhetoric that this group of people are terrible people, and I need to associate everything that's wrong in my life and the life of the people that I care about with this particular group of black people. And then he runs off and he gets a gun, and that's how crazy people are fueled, and more fuel is poured on the fire.
Which I haven't heard. Have you heard? I believe he is crazy. He's got to be. He's got to have
I'm sure
some sorts of schizophrenia, mental disorder.
We'll see what's happening. I mean, but I don't like to say I'm willing to judge him in that, but I don't like to throw out the particular diagnosis before we know what it is, because then it casts aspersions on the other people that have that diagnosis who are not violent. Like everyone who's schizophrenic is not violent.
But the Sandy Hook shooter did have some mental illness. That was diagnosed.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I am fine with that, but I don't like to go as far as saying everybody who has mental illness will go out and do this kind of crime.
I'm calling my man in Vegas, and I'm going to say, put money on the Charleston shooter.
This guy's going to have, they're going to have something come out of it. But, I would be just as interested if it turned out that he wasn't. Maybe this is just a man of convictions, a young man, obviously, of convictions, as this is what he runs with. But if he is intentional on it, there's clearly the premeditation. There's lots of people that will be able to prove that. So it's almost, I think, better for the system for it to turn out that he's not, doesn't have some sort of mental illness. It's just him, and
you can't
can throw him in jail.
sidestep the direct issue that needs to be.
Yeah, you can't say that there's not a race problem. You can't say that this guy didn't have an agenda. You can't blame it on the fact that he was crazy, and so we have to cut him some slack. No, he knew what he was doing, and he decided to prey upon these people, and he needs to be judged for it.
He's a sick bastard. I'll tell you this, and I mentioned this last week about the Israeli versus the American response.
Speaking of sick bastards, go ahead, Chuck.
Thank you. Did you just call the Israelis? Oh,
no,
me? Yeah.
No.
So, the Israelis and the Americans have a very different outlook on these major mass casualty incidents, and I'm speaking specifically to terrorism, but this isn't that far off, and the way they deal with it is entirely different, and it changes the way their society deals with it. And I think it's time that we start sidestepping these issues a little bit, because it is so much in our consciousness, and the next guy's like, well, look, South Carolina was 9 people. I got to outdo that. I'm going to go with some extra bombs, and I'm going to pick this. Everyone's trying to outdo the last guy. They want to go out in their blaze of glory. We have a lot of angst. We have a lot of mental illness. We have a lot of frustration.
No, but slow down. That has not happened yet. This guy wasn't outdoing anyone, and I hope there's not going to be someone outdoing him.
Oh, I think this goes way, way, way back. And you talk about Columbine and school shootings.
But there's been he didn't write any. Let's not make that. Let's not connect those dots just yet. I hope that's not happening.
I agree. I think it's everybody's different. He had his particular agenda, and maybe I will side with you on the point of, are you trying to outdo the last one? He did not succeed in what he wanted to do, which was start a race war, because he wanted one to begin.
And
so
Columbine
there might be,
was no race issues there.
Right.
That was just
But there might be
time.
somebody else who believes the same way that he does. Unfortunately, it goes, well, maybe this time I'll get it started, and people need to see what we're doing, and maybe I'll be the one to be the catalyst so that people actually see that things are wrong, and I'm going to start this revolution. So I could see that happen, but that doesn't have anything to do with whether we tell people, here's what happens, here's how you need to mourn the victims, here's a problem that we have in our society. So trying to hide it and not shine a light on it doesn't necessarily stop the next guy.
Yes and no, but here's what we do know. And going by the old logic that if you keep doing things the same way and get the same result, and you go, oh, that's not working, I don't get it.
Definition of insanity.
So here's the deal. This is not working.
Why do we keep doing this show, by the way?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a definition. Well put, Rusty. Thanks for throwing a little humor into a serious topic. Look, this is a failed strategy to tear these people apart and figure out where they came from and where they bought their guns and what their parents did and what they did on social media and who they lived with and what their agenda was. It's not working. This just keeps happening, and it's happening more and more.
But it doesn't happen because
if the
of the
roommate
media
had called and said, if he became more aware, the roommate had said, look, my roommate is crazy, and check out his Facebook.
And that's a sidebar, but it doesn't need to.
No, that's an answer. That's the problem you just presented.
But I'm saying part of the problem is, and granted, we're part of the problem because we're talking about it, but having this on mainstream media. I don't buy that. I don't think there should be a shadow
I'm not
societal
letting these people
events going on.
hide. Yeah, I'm not letting
think-
these horrible people hide and not call them accountable for what they do. And, and I'm certainly not going to let the people that live in the shadows go and sit there and go, none of this happens. There's not a race problem in America by not bringing
Then
it
you're
up.
in this Peliana sci-fi world where everyone's wearing the same beige color and smiling.
No, the
And
parallel-
meanwhile, there's a SWAT team on the corner and everyone's don't look that way.
The parallel is Israel, and I'll give you the example. And they have a culture of accountability where people call
They don't
these things.
do it on
in-
the news in Israel?
They don't do it on the news. You have
They don't do a lot of things on the news. You can't go by. I mean, we as Americans put a lot of things in our news, period. And everybody else has, not everybody, but a number of other countries have an overall governmentally run news system. So they can sit there and put the spin on the stories the way that they choose to spin the stories. And so you don't always know what is exactly happening. It's not handed to the public. That's not like it is here, period. There's lots of things. The fact that we even know all the pop culture garbagey news things that we do doesn't happen in a lot of these countries.
Well, and again, there's some parallels, and what's happened, for example, at the Mall of America with some terrorist scouting incidents and some suspicious incidents where the people are calling these things in, believe it or not, are this group of Israeli people that work at their kiosks at the mall. And you walk along the west side and you see all those kiosks, and those are the guys calling this stuff in because they're raising a culture of accountability and action on suspicious activity, and they're seeing the behaviors and culturally they're taught, look for people, see what they're doing, see what people are doing. If they're acting weird, call. We don't have that. We'd rather wait until it happens and say, oh, did you see what happened on the
That's
news?
not
It's
true.
horrible.
I
It's
think
horrible.
that we should sit there and have people be more vigilant, and they are working more on that. Even in the societies, the part of society here in America where we're saying, okay, you don't want to be a snitch. There's been all kinds of situations where like, no, you actually need to come forward. You need to give it, you need to tell something. They need to have more of that. We watch, we call situations. But talking about it afterwards is not the same as encouraging people to also talk about it before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Hey.
what I was moved by was, and at the clip I sent Rusty, I just having Jon Stewart break character, not that he's a really character so much, but break his normal
Format.
thing and say, look, I can't even do this today. I'm speechless.
Which,
I
by
don't
the
feel
way,
like being funny.
Yeah.
I think that's that's part of it.
I've
It's like,
seen-
no, this is too serious. I don't feel like being
Yeah.
funny about it.
I've seen him do that a couple of times more. Which, by the way, before we forget about Fox News, I'd like to believe, and I could be wrong, that if you look closely at Fox News, you can see the glint in their eye where they have the secret, we're full of shit, right? And when they get off the air, they go into a break room and go, wow, that was some crazy, stupid shit we just said. And they high five and they go drink and get drunk because they can't live with themselves because of all the heinous lies. That's
You
what
give
I'd
them
like
a
to
lot
believe.
of
I
credit.
could be wrong.
Does that make you sleep better at night?
It does.
You
I'm like,
think that's what it is?
I can see the twinkle in your eye there, Gretchen Carlson. You're smarter than you're funny.
I will just because it's Monday and I don't feel like being a big downer, I will applaud you for that. I'm glad that works for you.
Well,
Rusty.
over the weekend, the President of the United States of America did a podcast. Not ours. When is he doing ours? Is that next week?
I'm just working
Soon?
out the details right now.
And he dropped the N-bomb, the N-word.
It's not just a matter of it not being polite to say nigger in public. That's not the measure of whether racism still exists or not. It's not just a matter of overt discrimination. Societies don't overnight completely erase everything that happened 200 to 300 years prior.
That was from Mark Maron's podcast.
WTF podcast.
Which is a
That's
great
so
podcast.
awesome that he was on there. So
Chuck, you reacted when you heard the word nigger.
Yeah, no, I have a hard time saying that, or even hearing
good.
that word.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes, you should feel uncomfortable with the word, and I think that's part of the reason why he brings it up. So yeah, you're uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that people still don't think it and still don't look at those situations.
Have we seen yet? Has Fox News got all beside themselves yet about this? Our president.
Oh, for sure. I guarantee. I haven't really watched it, but I guarantee his social media footprint drives them batty.
No, I mean, are they all going to get in? Oh, how dare the president say that?
Yeah. Well, you know what?
You
can take
see,
either
I
side
think
would
what
say
they'll.
that.
I mean, I'm interested to see what they do, and a lot of the normal populace won't hear the podcast until today because it normally broadcasts on Monday.
Yeah.
But that's when the
Should he
downloads
have
start.
said the N-word, or should he have said the word?
I'm fine with him saying the way that he did in the context that he did because he was doing it to make a point, and I think that he's also saying that doesn't, just because people are uncomfortable by, or some people are uncomfortable by hearing it now, doesn't mean that there's not still a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what some people try to convince themselves now is, hey, we have a black president now, we have mayors that are black, we have people that are color in a couple of situations, and so you guys should stop complaining because there's nothing wrong anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's not the case. And so, everybody feels different about it. I have friends that use the word, and I do pick on them sometimes about, well, I don't think you should use it in the context that you do, but there is a reason why certain words have power, and I think that he used it in an appropriate way.
Our guest today coming up is a filmmaker. He does documentaries. He's traveled to some nasty parts of the world. Jimmy Galdea, your opinion on everything you've heard. Go.
Sum up, please. Sum up.
Well, thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, we're going to
really
talk
excited.
about your documentary that you're going to be showing to some investors and such today?
Tomorrow
night.
Tomorrow evening we're having a private screening and a fundraising event. So unfortunately, listeners are not invited. Sorry, guys. So sorry. Please do visit the website.
We're not listeners. I want to be clear.
The particular project that you're working on now, Jimmy, is the movie's called what?
Yeah, I'm working on 2 projects right now. The first film is called Papa's Shadow. It's about Ernest Hemingway's 2 safaris in East Africa, one in North Tanzania now and the other in Southwest Kenya.
And you did involve his son. We're going to talk about that, the process of making it, how much time you spent. But we got to take a quick break and thank our sponsors, and then we'll check out the box office for Hollywood, the projects.
We'll be right back.
I'm sorry, I was talking there. Other projects. We'll be right back.
It's been a Twin Cities food legend for almost 30 years. It's been the anchor for the Minneapolis warehouse district since it opened. And you may not know that the Loon Cafe can provide their outstanding creations and much, much more for your gathering, whether it's a private party or corporate event. For custom catering beyond the menu, contact the Loon Cafe. They'll create foods that will amaze your guests. Leave the cooking to someone else. Contact Brian at the Loon Cafe for your catering needs. Call 612-332-8342 or visit looncafe.com.
MacMen. Don't let your computer problems drive you mad. We are MacMen, Minnesota's premier tech consultants and problem solvers for Macs, mobile devices, troubleshooting, training, and much more. No more dragging your computer all over town because we come to you. We love making house calls to your home or small business. MacMen. Call 612-345-8005. The Alive and Social Network is alive and growing. From the best in sports, music, movies, and beer, Alive and Social is what all the cool kids click on. Featuring characters like radio rebel Jeff DeBay, Star Tribune pundit Jim Suhan, Unfiltered, and television veteran and handsome man Rusty Gatenby. You can also taste the Minnesota Pubcast with Jason and Molly. Join the band with live band karaoke night from legendary O'Gara's in St. Paul and the live music showcase from Shamrocks. Yes, Alive and Social Network does indeed rock and roll. The Jeff DeBay Show, Jim Suhan Unfiltered, the Rusty Gatenby Review, the Minnesota Pubcast with Jason and Molly, live band karaoke, and Shamrock's live music showcase. Join the fun. Be alive and social with the Alive and Social Network.
You're listening to the Twin Cities Hit Show. Say it fast 3 times. We just hear you.
All right. Now it's time for a little book on tape. Who's got an hour?
Kilimanjaro is a snow-covered mountain 19,710 feet high and is said to be the highest mountain in Africa.
Jimmy, name that book.
Western summit is called
That's the Snows of Kilimanjaro. That's the
ding 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 ding. That's what?
The opening quote.
Summit, there is the dried and frozen carcass of
you do?
I do, yeah. No one has explained. 2 minutes into the opening of the movie, we have that quote up. Yeah.
So tell folks about your movie. It's a documentary.
Yes, Papa's Shadow is a documentary film about Ernest Hemingway's 2 safaris in East Africa. First safari taking place in the early 30s, the second about 20 years later in the mid-50s.
And why do this documentary? I mean, you're a Minnesota guy. How did this come your way?
Yeah, I was studying philosophy and film theory down at St. Olaf College.
And playing football?
I'm playing football, yes, sir. And I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I got accepted to a course about Hemingway in East Africa with my professor, Mwalimu, Joseph Mbele. And I brought a camera with me, and one thing led to another. We ended up meeting Patrick Hemingway, and yeah.
What was Patrick Hemingway doing?
Patrick Hemingway is retired. He lives in Bozeman, Montana with his wife, Carol, who's a playwright.
So did you go to Bozeman for the interviews?
We did. We went to actually a small town outside of Bozeman named Craig, Montana.
Was it ski season?
It was not ski season. It was the windy season.
See, he went to work. He didn't turn it into like a working vacation.
Yeah, because I've heard some of the trips you've taken. I mean, you've been in refugee camps, and so you're not staying at the Rwanda Holiday Inn. You're
No, we're not. We are. We rough it wherever we go. We're rambling around.
So what did you learn making this movie about Hemingway?
What did I learn? Well, I learned a heck of a lot about Hemingway.
He was an interesting, I thought, for being such especially for the time period, a very prolific author. Because, I mean, it's not like now we're like, I'm going to write a book and then just self-publish and throw it together. I mean, he had a very anti-hero type of lifestyle, I think, for an author, because of all the alcohol problems and if you marry the person, does it still count as womanizing? I mean, he kind of just jumped from woman to woman, it seemed like, throughout the course of his lifetime.
Yeah, Hemingway had 4 marriages over the course of his life. He had absolutely a drinking issue, and he had mental issues as well. But what I'm realizing about Hemingway is his ability to empathize with people of all races, all cultures, all religions. It's pretty incredible.
He committed suicide, right?
He did.
How old was he at the time?
62 years old.
And suicide has happened, it's repeated within the Hemingway family, is that right?
That's correct. His father committed suicide in the early 30s, and 2 of his 3 sons as well.
Right. And one of his wife's fathers. It just sounded like something that was very prevalent, and it might have been part of what we said about the mental health issues that he had. It probably did not help the situation that he had, as he got older.
Absolutely.
Between that and the alcoholism and the number of, I mean, he had so many weird things that happened, like all these accidents and plane crashes, and this, where it really is like, how did you make it as far as you did? Like how a plane would crash, and then there would be a fire, and then just all of the stuff that would happen that you'd be surprised that with the healthcare system that we have now, that a person would survive. And Ernest was still kicking.
He was still kicking, and actually that is a huge element of Papa's Shadow is Ernest's son Patrick's description of the 2 back-to-back plane crashes that Ernest and his 4th wife Mary, who's from Bemidji, Minnesota.
Did not know that.
There you go. Yes, they were in back-to-back plane crashes in Kenya and Uganda during their second safari. It absolutely contributed to his mental deterioration.
How so? What do you mean?
He started losing his memory, and therefore the craft of writing. And so I believe that what he saw, his self-worth in writing, started to disappear, and therefore he decided not to stick around.
Did he have a TBI from the crash? Brain injury?
I'm not sure. He was seen in Kenya.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how the...
and they have great medical there, so
terrific.
Complete faith that he was fine.
Why did he go
They
to
don't take
Africa?
health partners in Kenya, by the way.
Right.
What was his fascination with Africa?
So the first safari was actually paid by... Pfeiffer. I forget
was that
the name
Time
of the
magazine? Which one did he do?
Yeah,
I'm trying to
he
keep track.
did.
It was because he did a
Life.
couple of Life magazine. There
Life
we go.
magazine.
And so they were having him cover. He was going to write a shorter piece for them, and then it sounds like they expanded it once he got there because he started writing it and went, no, I'm going to write so much more.
Yeah.
And so it ended up because he was a correspondent as well for a lot of these magazines.
He was.
So he would go to different places around the country and he would write these pieces. And so because you would kind of go, go, "Why'd you get on another plane?" You know, but that was his job. Is that they would send him to different wars, or they would send him to different areas, and he would go there and learn about things, and he would, you know, and that was his job. And you know, it seemed like something that was so much of his identity that you don't understand how you weren't able to overcome it, but you could see why that would be something that would be so emotionally and mentally attaching to a guy like Ernest Hemingway.
Sure. Well, yeah. So Hemingway was a correspondent during World War II with his third wife, Martha Gellhorn, and then early on in his career in Paris, he began his novelist career. He was a journalist prior to that. But the reason that he went to Africa, Hemingway lived in accordance with nature on a daily basis. Even when he was a kid, he was hunting and fishing with his family and in northern Michigan, and he had the opportunity to go to Africa in the early 30s, and he remarked on that experience as being the happiest time of his life. He had everything paid for, you know, Hakuna Matata, no worries, right? Yeah. Hunting big game, which for him, that interaction with animals, the hunt, was just an unbelievable experience, and then he promised himself he'd go back, and unfortunately that fantastical time in the 30s was not repeated.
Well, you know, as a student, you probably study a lot of things that you go, okay, that was really interesting. What about this was so empowering to you that you go, I'm going to make a film about it, though, as well?
Oh, I suppose Hemingway's ability to break down cultural barriers, what we were just talking about earlier, the racial problems in America. Hemingway is somebody we should idolize in that regard.
So when you went to Africa, this is music from out of Africa.
I was wondering where you were going.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
What did you do when you were in Africa?
Yeah, that's a great question. I studied for about a month throughout northern Tanzania, going to really following in Hemingway's footsteps, going on the same safaris that he went on without the guns. And then come end of the trip, my family and I, we had a lifetime dream of climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and my family met me out there, and we did that.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Russ, you're going to make fun of me now. Have we talked about football with this guy yet? Did we mention that?
No,
okay, good. I had to check for a second.
Well, I mentioned he played football.
Well, and I thought you were kidding because I mean, look at the guy; he's in shape, right? But and you're talking football, St. Olaf, but now he's a film guy. I'm like, yeah, right. Well, I'm researching you here, and everything on there's no mention of your film stuff, but you are all over for football.
Oh yeah,
so,
wow.
That's not what I expected from a filmmaker.
Sure.
Tell us about the path from going from a football star, and I don't know what you did. What did you do in football? What was your highlight, and how'd you end up in film?
I had a blast in high school. I had a wonderful career at Minnetonka High School. Won a bunch of games. Had some fun.
Go Skippers.
Go Skippers. And then I went to...
How was that crazy linebacker you played with? What was his name?
Oh, Connor Gatenby.
Oh,
that guy?
That kid is insane.
Gatenby. Wow, yeah, hothead, man.
Yeah, he went on to play
I wonder if he got it from his dad.
Did. I wonder.
Hothead. Did his helmet fly off when he got upset? It just woo?
Oh, a couple times. Oh, man, Connor was a heck of an athlete. It was a lot of fun to play with him. And Bo Allen, who's now on the Eagles, was co-captain of that team. But yeah, after that, I went to St. Olaf College. I played Division III football for 4 years, and we had a good time there too.
What position did you play?
I was a linebacker. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, unfortunately, I guess my film career hasn't reached the too deep into the internet now.
But you just started.
I just started, yeah. And we do have a website. You can visit us at ramblepictures.com.
So. And besides the, I want to talk more about Africa, but
Absolutely.
Besides the Ernest Hemingway documentary, Papa's Shadow, you say you've got 2 other films already in the can?
Well, we've got one other film in the can aside from Papa's Shadow, another in pre-production. The other film in the can is entitled A Place Called Nowhere, and it is about South Sudanese refugees who have been displaced in light of the recent civil war.
So you've got a thing with Africa.
Yeah, I certainly do, which... actually, I'll quote Hemingway here. If anybody's read For Whom the Bell Tolls, Hemingway opens the book with a quote from John Donne, I believe, and latter half of the quote is, every man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to ask for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. And so I think that this project is certainly in line with the spirit of Hemingway and his perception of the world. They're innocent people in a remote part of the world that we don't think about very often, who have been displaced from their homes. In fact, 2 million people. So if you can imagine Minneapolis being forced, in spite of genocide, to move thousands of miles away.
Not Wisconsin. Don't say Wisconsin. We can't.
I think at some points you're like, I'll go wherever I need to go. But I mean, now that you're in this industry, are you learning to navigate? Like, how am I going to get involved in this festival? How do I have the right screenings? And so, are you at that part of the process, or?
Yes, we are. And in order to do that, we need more funding for third-party material, photography, and that type of thing. So that's what we're doing right now. And,
well, we would love to help you out. We are good friends with the executive director of the Twin Cities Film Fest.
Is that right?
So, yes,
wow.
yes. And so we will definitely make sure that we give him all your invitation. And it'd be nice.
So
maybe
much.
we can help put together, if you'd be open to it, we could put together a screening here in town along with them. I'm sure there's been lots of those opportunities, and I'm sure it sounds like something that our listeners would really like to see. So we can help. If you'd be open to that, I think we could probably help put something together.
I am wide open.
That'd be fantastic.
Absolutely.
So you get some investors, we'll get some more patrons, and get you in front of some patrons.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Yeah.
What's the last good movie you've seen?
Last good movie I've seen. Last night I was watching The Player by Robert Altman.
Oh, going way back.
Okay.
Going way back, yeah.
That's one of his better ones, I think.
Oh,
Robert Altman, yeah.
Yeah, that opening scene.
That commentary on Hollywood.
That's right. Yeah.
What'd you think of The Heat? Wasn't that a great movie?
Oh, The Heat.
Yeah.
Wait, Heat or The Heat?
The Heat. The Heat.
Sure.
Yeah.
I did not see
He's thinking the De Niro, Val Kilmer, Pacino movie.
not The Heat with Melissa McCarthy. Probably
It wasn't that bad.
We've talked about this
Go
every
see
time.
Tammy.
I go Rusty Gate me every time I
Tammy.
think of the word The Heat, or the movie The Heat. Oh my God, the worst movie ever.
Well, just because one is worse doesn't mean that it's not bad as well.
No, I mean, I'm just saying there are levels of horrible movies.
Well,
and
that
I
is
think,
true.
I think Tammy falls on a deeper level of ew.
One night we were bored, and this is back when I was married. So the four of us rented a movie, and we were just like going through on-demand movies. We picked Into the Wild or something.
Oh, great!
No, not okay. It wasn't that one. If you said, "Oh, great," it wasn't that one.
All right,
Reese Witherspoon.
It was like a B-list movie.
Into the Wild is the guy who goes to Alaska.
Actually, it's a River Road film. Bill Polat's company.
Right,
No,
that's
that
what I'm
wasn't
like.
it. No, it wasn't. Okay, it wasn't that one. It was The Wild.
that
Oh, it
one.
was The Wild.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Reese Witherspoon?
No, nobody you've ever heard of, including the actors, the director. It was horrible. But I that cool moment as a dad when you're at the time like 8 and 6-year-olds go, oh my God, this is the worst movie ever. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
You don't let them watch rated R movies, do you?
No, we skip right to X. It's either PG-13 or X, but I'm like, you are not watching rated R.
Now I'm looking at what he was talking about. Oh, that's a cartoon.
No, it's
That's The Wild is a cartoon.
I'll forget the
You're
name
just
of it.
throwing names out
No,
there. See,
it's,
now this is what Chuck does.
There you go.
Chuck has now
Called The
panned
Wild.
2 movies that he probably didn't even see because he started
Sure.
calling them The Wild, and it's not The Wild.
Maybe you fell
Because
asleep.
this is The Wild. There's a koala in it. It's cute.
I wish I had a
That
break.
one you could show your kids.
Yes, and
What
we
is the
would not.
name of that movie?
I
Okay.
don't know. So everybody, The Wild, it looks like it got nice reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Just because Chuck said that it's terrible, it does not mean it. It got rated G. You can show it to your kids. There's a koala in it.
Sounds
with
like
sunglasses.
Chuck doesn't care about ratings. Do you let them watch violent R-rated stuff?
Call home to get the name of the movie from his 8-year-old.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
Hey, honey, what was that movie that we all hated? So,
It was Wild Things.
right, they're the only people that hated that. Or
You watch Wild Things with your young daughter?
That's what I'm saying.
Very maturing process for her.
oh my gosh.
Well, Jurassic
fascinating.
Park killed it again at the box office. Did you get a chance to see it yet?
No,
A lot of fun.
Have you
I
seen
know
it?
I'm
Lot
gonna
of
like
fun.
it,
Lot
so
of
that's
fun.
fine.
I noticed when I said it was the last good movie you saw, you didn't say Jurassic World, though.
Well, there's some, I guess, plot holes in it, I'm sure, but it's
Yeah.
a ton of fun. You
But
go see it. Go
I
see
think,
it.
isn't there a difference between what you would go as a quote unquote good movie and what was an enjoyable movie? That's what I go.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's stuff that I enjoy that I'm like, look, I'm not saying it's great. I really liked it though, kind of thing. I'm not putting it on my list of the best movies, but there's a lot of movies that I go are really good, well-made films that I'd never watch again. I'm like, got it,
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
don't need to see it again.
And you got to go into it expecting, with realistic expectations. It's a
I think it makes
blockbuster.
everybody seems to like, it's solidified the fact that America loves Chris Pratt right now. They
Yeah.
want to see him do more stuff. It's making a ton of money. I mean, even though,
Will he or won't he be the next Indiana,
Indiana Jones. There's lots of memes out there now with his face plastered, in like
That'd be a good
Photoshop
one.
onto Indiana Jones. We kind of talked about this for a reason, and I love Chris Pratt. I liked him when he was still chunky. I thought he was sexy then.
Yeah.
So
that's
I'm
right. I
like,
forgot he
Yeah,
was
he
that
used
guy,
to be
yeah.
heavy Chris Pratt, and I'm like, he's still charming. I still liked him back then. So
Yeah,
I'm like, it's all good. But I do kind of almost feel like that he gotten to the point that he can't do another iconic character like that because eventually you have to identify it as can you be three of those? Can he be Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy and be the main guy in Jurassic Park franchise and be Indiana Jones franchise saver? And so that's what I have a difficulty because it's like Robert Downey Jr. I feel like he almost got to mask because you could be Tony Stark and we'll let you be Sherlock Holmes, but you can't be another main dude. Like you couldn't be James Bond too. Then it's like, okay, now I can't suspend disbelief that you are three amazing, awesome people.
I couldn't see him as James Bond.
Yeah,
Okay, I just threw that out. So
you would never see him star in a movie against the Wild.
Against the
That's
Wild.
the name of
See,
the
that's
movie.
totally
Against the
different.
Direct-to-video
A movie that-
Canadian film.
See, none of us have heard of that.
Wild?
Against the
Against
Wild.
the
Against the
Wild.
Wild. What's it about?
It's
Who's in it?
it's about hell is what that movie's
Oh, my
about.
God.
for
I'm gonna
parents.
look it up.
It's a plane crash with two kids, and it is the most cliche, horrible movie.
Did you think that you were getting the wild, cute
No,
little
no.
one?
I
you
thought
you were getting this.
I wanted to find something my kids would like, and like I said, it was so dumb. Even at the time.
Oh, I see the
6-8-year-old.
poster now. There's a very cute husky in it, but the mom looks distressed. I don't think I would have picked this.
I think
movie
she
initially
realized
anyway.
she had been in that film. She's like, I just got paid to be in this.
The kids look miserable in the
The dog
photo.
is like,
They were like,
this movie feels like 7
the
years.
buffet table at this
Yikes.
set sucks.
What about that says I'm going to show that to even that I would have looked at the cover photo and
Yeah,
said
the
in the
girl
cover
looks
photo the
concerned.
girl looks like she's been abused. She has a the dog looks freaked out. There's bears in
a
it
nice
clearly.
Rotten Tomatoes gave it
Huskies.
like 2%, so it was pretty good.
Oh my gosh, look at that. Go watch The Wild and cleanse your children's palates when you get home. That Wild Things was fantastical. There's lots of movies with the word wild in it.
Instead of popcorn, we had plates of ginger. While we watched the movie, it was perfect.
So Jurassic World retained its number one position at the box office, made $102 million additional dollars.
Oh, really? Wow.
Inside Out came in second, but don't feel sorry for
No,
Pixar.
not at all.
Because it outperformed even the most optimistic of estimates at $91 million. So that makes it Pixar's second largest opening weekend behind Toy Story 3. That one made $110 million, Toy Story 3 in 2010. But it's the biggest original, not a sequel,
Right.
opening for Pixar or anyone else. So there you go, $91 million. It's second place. You know it's a good weekend when $91 million puts you in second place.
Yeah.
I like everybody's going, there's no losers in this race. It's okay.
Yeah.
They're both fine. So,
I can't believe how fast Jurassic World will hit the 1 billion mark, though.
Unbelievable.
I mean, good golly.
and look at other things that have been in second place before. Like it looks like Frozen came in second place the week that it was open, and it still came out to be Disney's biggest animated release that year, and still ended up making $1.3 billion. So nobody needs to feel bad about Inside Out. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I should have gave him my dollars. Now how no one in that movie is going to do well.
Jurassic World so far with the worldwide and domestic, $981 million. That's in 2 weekends.
Yes.
That's almost $1 billion.
Like 4 more weeks like that, and they'll earn back what they spent on it.
No, they've already cleared that.
Yeah.
I was.
You know what? Whenever he
kidding.
says stuff now, you notice just because Jimmy wondered why we didn't just go and laugh because we look at him because he's like he might really mean that and not know.
Sure,
yeah, he
can
might.
never-
he might not know.
See jokes.
Like, was that a joke that didn't
Right.
land, or was that a real thing he thought in his brain? Let's see if we catch up. All right,
It's the wild card.
right. Which he probably thinks is a movie. It
Yeah,
might be.
which reminds me of a
Could
movie
be.
I saw, Into the Wild Card, or
Sure,
something like that.
Into the
It's a
Wild Card.
horrible kids movie.
Trying to see what Avengers has done to date.
I think it's still in it dropped to number 5, but it's still in the running for the top movies that were going on. I thought it was still there.
Yeah.
While you're looking
Made
that up, so
$2.7 million over the weekend, $451 million domestically. So Jurassic World is already in 2 weekends about to blow that one away.
and so Jimmy, now that you have 2 projects in the can, one that you're working on. So at this point, do you have to go, I need to slow down, I don't start working on any other projects, I'm just shopping these around, or are you still creatively going, oh, but I have another idea that I need to work on as well?
Yeah, larger feature-length projects are. I'm kind of staying away from those since I've got 3 on my plate, but short films. We actually just finished up a short film called They Both Suck.
Okay.
You can look at the trailer on YouTube. They Both Suck.
Nice.
Yeah, we did it for the 48-hour film festival.
So your head did not explode during the 48-hour film festival. Had you done it before?
I don't think so. It's here still.
Yeah.
I had never done it before. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you do it
pretty
again?
Crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Because I have lots of friends that are like, I'd only do that once. Just like I have
sure.
friends that do Fringe Festival, and they're like, I need to do that once every 3 years, kind of thing. It's very exhausting as a
really
filmmaker.
Is.
So.
Whose house is on the trailer?
That's my parents' home.
Nice. How come I never got the invite to the pool party?
Come on over, man, whenever you want. I teamed up with some great buddies of mine. Their company's called Sparky Stories.
Okay.
They do beautiful work, so check it out if you get a chance.
You're doing a good job. Thinking maybe you want to come to the party tonight?
This is the trailer for They Both Suck.
But you never stop a dropping. We get to
So is this the 48 Film Festival?
This is it. Yep.
So you did a trailer just for a fake movie?
Kind of. There was a trailer competition.
Yeah.
Had to be under 48 seconds long. So we had a ton of fun. We had a dolly and some tracks and beautiful camera. It's great.
Yeah, it looks legit.
It's cool. We collaborated really well. I think so. That's probably
that
why
makes a big difference. Like if you're like, okay, it works out because I mean you either need to be. I think it's whenever the 48-hour film festival is like watching a reality show. So the teams that are fun are the ones that either, wow, we just work so smoothly together and really get along and everything's great, or there's like, we're a train wreck from the get-go. And
I hate Tom.
Exactly. It does get to be, just kind of a, one or the other situation. Like people don't normally seem to just muddle through.
Yeah.
So does this make you want to do a full script on this?
Oh, perhaps
they both suck.
Yeah, they got cool chemistry. Those two, Alex Colliard and Henry Constable, actors in the cities.
And Alex, you got through the Brave New Workshop.
Yes, we did. We went through the Brave New Workshop thanks to Andy Wegleitner, who are friends of yours.
Yeah,
who's friends of yours.
Very funny stand-up comedian. Does a lot of stuff for the Brave New Workshop as well.
That's right. Yeah, I think his show's called Promiscuous Hostility.
And that is this Thursday. His show is this Thursday.
Good things.
Yeah. Have you seen or heard about Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl?
I have heard great things about it. There was a line out the door when I was coming out of Entourage.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I really want to see that movie. Yeah.
Did it make you feel guilty about coming out of Entourage? It's like I could be over there crying.
Yeah. It did make me feel guilty.
Back to good movies where you're like, that one's supposed to be good. I could be over there feeling like I'm being emotionally tortured. Kind of thing
exactly.
We had the director on this podcast last week, and
wow.
He has an amazing resume from NYU to working with Scorsese as his assistant. And then from that, hopping on to Glee, directing the episodes for the first 4 seasons of Glee. Wow. And then another 4 seasons of American Horror Story.
Oh, great.
So he got to chat about Jessica Lange.
He was, I think, more than Scorsese's
wonderful.
assistant. I mean, he was really his protege.
Well, he was a big fan of Scorsese, and so he borderline stalked Scorsese to become his assistant.
Well, I would stalk Scorsese if I had the opportunity.
It's on record here, people.
I like that you're being honest about it. That's fair.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years? What's the wish list?
Wish list is to continue making personal films, wherever that may be. I was out in Hollywood for a summer. I worked for a company called American Zoetrope. I would love what I learned there.
It's a Coppola thing, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yep. I was working for the Coppola family, and I learned a lot there. And narrative work is where I hope to be in 10 years.
Have you read or heard about or went out to support our Minnesota director Pete Docter and his Pixar movie Inside Out?
Oh, I haven't heard.
Yeah, he graduated from Bloomington Kennedy in 1987, won the Academy Award for Pixar's Up.
That's right.
And now he's got Inside Out, which is
what a cool concept.
Very imaginative, and the voices. In fact, I'll just let Amy Poehler talk about how imaginative it is. Here's Amy Poehler. Hold on.
I know that Pete said, and I mean maybe he's told you, but he said when he pitched it, to John Lasseter, John was like, I love this idea. I don't know how you're going to do it. Right? Like, how do you do it? How do you do a movie about feelings? And how are those feelings the lead characters? And, And so just to take on that challenge alone and to spend 5 years doing it is really, truly remarkable.
Can you believe that? 5 years.
That's incredible.
From, and they are very strong that way. Pixar were like, look, no pressure. We won't release the movie until it's ready to go.
Wow. What a cool company to work for.
Chuck's got some news out of the film and legal world.
Yeah.
Chuck used to be a cop.
I did.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, allegedly.
Really?
Yeah. So, how many people ever heard of a movie called Star Wars Episode 1?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
I think I know that one.
So, the guy who played Anakin Skywalker in that episode was arrested. I'll just read the article out of Newser. A former Star Wars actor allegedly went to the dark side last week. I see what you did there, Newser. Taking South Carolina police officers on a high-speed chase for 25 miles. Jake Lloyd, best known for portraying a young Anakin Skywalker in Episode 1, was reported to police.
And who will never do anything ever again.
But he hasn't. Let him finish the story, and then I'll tell you why. I was full of punchlines when I read this story, too, and then I stopped.
Sure.
So go ahead.
Reported to police on Wednesday afternoon for driving recklessly in Carlton County, allegedly took off when deputies pursued him onto I-95. I'm going to do this tomorrow. He starts passing cars on the double yellow line, Sergeant Kyle Strickland. He's going head-on into oncoming traffic. The 26-year-old reportedly hit speeds of 100 miles per hour and crashed through a fence. When he reached a wooded area, Lloyd used the force, so to speak. Oh, this is horrible. And was not deterred by the trees. He bounced off a bunch of them like a pinball machine, Sergeant Strickland says. Lloyd eventually stopped, however, and gave police the surname Broadbent. He gave an alias. Nice. A former agent confirmed that the man was in fact Lloyd, according to an AP report. The former child actor didn't appear to be on drugs or intoxicated at the time of arrest, but gave no insight as to why he may have decided to run from the law.
But then if you really look into the background story of what has happened to Jake Lloyd since he was in the film, he hasn't done any more acting. And part of it is that after he came out of the film, he said that he went back to school and he's had some serious bullying issues from being in that film. And he hasn't been the same. And it's back to what we were saying before with some mental illness situations. He's dropped into a depression, some other things, and that's part of the reason why we haven't heard from him. And, that's the part where I'm like, you know what, I had a bunch of those. When I first read the headlines, too, I'm like, oh, I want to jump in there with all those punchlines. But then I don't think I'm not going to support, or I can understand why, the bullying thing is so prevalent and can change a kid's life so much. And from somebody that loves the Star Wars franchise and thinking, oh my gosh, this is the chance of a lifetime. I would do any crappy part that they'd have in there. I even want to be Anakin, and none of us like baby Anakin. Everybody but to think that you're the kid that nobody liked, and you're the kid that people went back and edited out of the film in the special editions, and you got picked on more than anybody else, and nobody, they're going, well, if we could do a special edition that didn't have all of the superfluous Anakin dialogue and all the Jar Jar Binks thing. I mean, he was one of the things that people blame the movie on, and that would be a lot of pressure for a little kid. So that's where I go back to that's too bad, because we're sitting there's movie blockbuster stars that I'll be anything in Star Wars, and this kid is the main guy in the first one, and it's kind of wrecked his life and turned him a little crazy.
Well, I get that he's the face of it, so he's going to get the brunt of it by overflow. But it's on the director and the writer. You put a kid that young in a movie, and it was a crap movie,
right? And so that's why I feel bad for this crazy kid.
So
I think most people, though, even if he had said his name, Jake Lloyd, if you put him in a room, nobody really knows the name Jake Lloyd.
No
one recognizes his face. So I wonder. I think at some point the bullying had to stop. He's out of the.
But what did the bullying do? What did the bullying do? So was it prevalent enough that it's enough? I mean, I think that bullying can be so bad and so pervasive that it really can ruin your childhood. And
I'm gonna cut him some slack, but not enough.
Not enough. I'm not saying that you get to go and do that. No, so I'm not saying he should get a pass on anything. I could just say, well, I could understand why that would be enough to throw you off.
What's that? Was he on The Sopranos too?
Yeah, he looks like he's trying to be Leonardo DiCaprio. Here's my impersonation of Jake Lloyd meeting some new friends. That's that boy from Star Wars. Get him! Kick his ass! Poor guy.
Yeah.
Those people don't watch Star Wars that talk like that.
And he doesn't look like that much like he was.
I feel the Jar Jar Binks was a metaphor for what was going on in society at the time.
I got no problem with you picking on Jar Jar.
I agree. I was talking about this at the tractor truck pull the other day.
You know what Star Wars needs? More Confederate flags.
Hey. Do you think Chewbacca was black? Because I sort of like that critter. All right, have we killed an hour? We've killed an hour.
We've killed a lot of things, but an hour is part of that.
So, Jimmy, how can we track and follow your career?
Yeah, please visit ramblepictures.com. We've got all our contact information on there. Otherwise, look for Jimmy Gildea on Facebook.
And when is the pool party at your parents'?
Oh, yeah, every night, midnight.
All right, Connor and I will be there.
That's good. It'll be an intimate crowd this week.
Gross.
Who do we have on the show this week? Tomorrow we got some comedians.
Tomorrow we have comedian Patrick Ryan Bauer. His dad was comedian Bill Bauer, and he's going to come in and talk about his career and what he's been up to. And the day after that, we have comedian Tommy Ryman returning.
Oh, when do we have Greg Coleman? Or is he the following week?
I think he's the following week.
All right.
What are you looking at me for?
Now you have me worried. I read the calendar wrong.
It's on the calendar?
Yeah, it's all on the calendar.
All right. Well, there you go. Stay dry this Monday. Looks like a little hint of some sunshine.
Yeah. Remember, if it's raining out, you can always take a blue and white cab.
Nice.
Remember, you can schedule those ahead of time. You go on to Blue and White Cab, I believe it's .com. You schedule your pickup ahead of time.
So you're saying after I've had some 3rd Street beer, I can schedule a blue and white cab
to take you to the Chart House
and have a fabulous dinner.
Yeah, for they could take you to. You could pre-schedule your pickup for the Chart House Deck Show this Thursday, knowing you have to be there at 5:30. You schedule ahead of time. With
Ingenious.
Sounds better than my house.
We'll see you.
Well played.
We'll see you there then, Jimmy. All right, we got to go. That's it. That's a Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.